My brothers and sisters, sometimes in life, you begin to feel alone. People you thought would always be there begin to disappear. Friends become distant. Family doesn't understand you anymore. And you sit there thinking, why is this happening to me? But I want you to remember something very powerful today. Allah isolates the chosen ones. You see, when Allah loves you and wants to elevate you, He pulls you away from the noise. He takes you out of the crowd. Not because you are worthless, no, but because you are worth too much. You are being prepared for something special, and that preparation requires silence, solitude, and surrender. Look at the lives of the prophets, peace be upon them all. Before revelation came to Musa alayhi salam, he was alone in the desert. Before the Qur'an came to the Prophet Muhammad, he was isolated in the cave of Hira. Before Maryam, peace be upon her, was honored with a miraculous birth, she was away from her people. Solitude was never a punishment, it was always a purification. Allah is removing the distractions from your life. Those people you lost, the ones who walked away or turned on you, they were never meant to stay. Allah knows their hearts, and perhaps He knew that their presence would be a burden on your journey. So He removed them, even though you cried for them. He loves you too much to let you stay in company that will poison your growth. Sometimes He breaks your heart so that you finally turn to Him with sincerity. He knows that if everything was perfect, you would keep depending on the people and not on Him. So He makes you taste loneliness, not to crush you, but to teach you that He is always near, closer than your jugular vein. You begin to pray differently when you're isolated. You speak to Allah with tears instead of just words. The Qur'an starts to feel like a personal letter, not just a holy book. You finally begin to understand what it means when Allah says, and we are closer to Him than His jugular vein. You start to see that your greatest strength comes when you're on the prayer mat in the middle of the night, whispering your pain to the one who already knows it. Sometimes Allah breaks you, only to rebuild you. You are not being punished, you are being crafted. Your faith is being shaped. Your soul is being cleansed, and it cannot happen while you are busy trying to fit into a world that was never meant to understand your worth. My beloved, you are not alone. You are being watched over. You are being molded. You are being loved in the most divine way. So when life pushes you into isolation, don't panic, embrace it. Allah is calling you. He wants you closer. He wants your attention, and He will never isolate you without a reason. One day, you will look back and realize that loneliness was the turning point. That silence was filled with divine wisdom. That solitude brought you the strength you never thought you had, and you will thank Allah for choosing you, for isolating you, and for never leaving you even when the world did. May Allah grant us understanding, patience, and love for His divine plan. Ameen. When Allah wants to elevate someone spiritually, He often begins by detaching them from the things they cling to most. It might be people, comforts, routines, or even certain dreams. This detachment is not a punishment, though it may feel painful at the time. It's a mercy in disguise. You see, the soul cannot rise when it's weighed down by worldly attachments. To grow closer to Allah, something has to give, and most often, it's our dependency on the dunya that must be released. When you're constantly surrounded by people, by noise, by distractions, you begin to lose the sharpness of your connection with your Creator. Your heart becomes busy, your mind restless, and your soul unfocused. So Allah gently removes you from the things that are pulling you away from Him. Maybe it's a friendship that suddenly fades. Maybe it's a door that closes no matter how hard you knock. Maybe it's an environment that once made you feel safe, but now feels uncomfortable. That shift is a sign. Allah is calling you to something higher. When you're detached, you start to realize just how much your peace was dependent on things that were never meant to last. And in that quiet moment of reflection, you begin to find something far more powerful, reliance on Allah alone. You start to breathe differently. You stop chasing what doesn't benefit your soul. You begin to walk with purpose, not desperation. That's when the elevation begins, not in the presence of many, but in the presence of the One. And so, detachment becomes a doorway, a painful one, yes, but behind that door is a level of faith, clarity, and inner strength that you may have never known you were capable of. Allah purifies the heart through separation. He strengthens the spirit through stillness, and He elevates the sincere by removing the unnecessary. You might cry when things are taken away. That's normal. But know this, what Allah removes, He often replaces with something greater, a deeper bond with Him, a stronger version of you, and a heart that's no longer tied to the temporary, but anchored in the eternal. There are times in your life when everything slows down, plans are delayed, people walk away, and it feels like you're stuck in a space of waiting. But what if that space is actually sacred? What if the silence you're experiencing is Allah's way of preparing you for something greater, something your current self is not yet ready to carry? Every mission given by Allah requires preparation. Look at the lives of those before us. Yusuf alayhi salam was isolated in a well, then imprisoned for years, not because he did anything wrong, but because he was being shaped for leadership. Musa alayhi salam fled into the desert for years before he returned to face Pharaoh. Even our beloved Prophet was given time in the cave of Hira before the first revelation came. The pattern is clear. Before the mission comes the silence, the isolation, and the internal work. Allah doesn't rush greatness. He doesn't throw you into your purpose without first building the strength, humility, and wisdom you'll need to handle it. So when you're alone and things seem quiet, don't assume you're being left behind. You're being prepared. The weight of the mission you'll carry tomorrow requires the patience you're learning today. You might not understand it now. You might be asking Allah, why me, why this waiting? But the truth is, if He showed you what's coming, your heart wouldn't be able to bear the responsibility just yet. So He gives you time to grow, to break and rebuild, to learn and unlearn, all in divine silence. This is why some people are pulled away from the spotlight. It's not rejection, it's protection. The delay is not denial, it's preparation. And the isolation is not abandonment, it's training. So embrace the phase where no one claps for you, where you aren't noticed, where nothing seems to be moving. Because behind the scenes, your soul is being shaped, your faith is being deepened, and when the time is right, Allah will unfold your mission in a way that no one can block. All that matters is that you're ready for it spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, and Allah is the best one to prepare you. Sometimes when Allah pulls you away from certain people or situations, it's not because you've done anything wrong. It's because He's protecting you from harm you cannot see. You may feel abandoned or rejected, but in reality, you're being safeguarded. Not all harm comes with warning signs. Some of it is hidden in the company you keep, in the conversations you trust, or in the environments you think are harmless. Allah knows what's in every heart, even when you don't. He knows who truly supports you and who secretly envies you. He knows whose presence will eventually damage your faith, distract your purpose, or weaken your heart. And out of His mercy, He removes you before the destruction happens. It might hurt when it happens, it might confuse you, but what feels like a loss is often divine protection. You may notice that after a certain person leaves your life, your peace returns, your thoughts become clearer. Your worship becomes deeper. That's not a coincidence. That's Allah removing a barrier between you and Him. Sometimes we hold on tightly to things that are actually draining us spiritually, and since we don't always have the strength to walk away, Allah does it for us. He may distance you from a crowd because their influence was slowly corrupting your soul. He may cut off a relationship that felt important because it was leading you away from His light. Even environments can become dangerous to your faith, and Allah knows exactly when it's time to pull you out, even if you don't understand why. This divine protection is one of the most beautiful signs of Allah's love. When He guards your heart and your deen, even if it means taking things away, He is only replacing harm with healing. He is trading distraction for clarity, corruption for purity, and danger for peace. So instead of mourning what was taken, begin to thank Allah for what He saved you from, even if you never find out what it was, because sometimes His greatest blessings are the things we never see. And in His wisdom, the people and places that vanish from your life were never meant to carry you forward anyway. The heart is the center of your spiritual life, and when Allah wants goodness for you, He begins by purifying it. But purification is not always easy or comfortable. It often comes through hardship, loss, silence, and solitude. When Allah isolates you, He's creating the space needed for that deep internal cleansing, removing what doesn't belong so your heart can reflect His light more clearly. We live in a world full of distractions, praise, attention, comparisons, and temptations that slowly cloud the heart. Jealousy creeps in, pride begins to grow, dependency on people increases, and sincerity fades without us even realizing it. So Allah, in His mercy, removes the noise. He pulls you back away from the crowd, away from the distractions, so you can see yourself clearly and return to Him with a softer, more honest heart. During isolation, you begin to notice things about yourself that were buried under busyness. You may recognize how much you were depending on validation from others. You may realize how often your intentions were mixed, and you may start to feel the weight of sins you once ignored. This awareness is painful, but it's the beginning of purification. Because only when a wound is exposed can it begin to heal. The process is gradual. Allah purifies the heart with gentle tests, ones that humble you, that make you cry in the quiet of the night, that soften your words and deepen your empathy. You learn to forgive, you learn to let go of grudges, you begin to detach from your ego and seek sincerity in your actions. And above all, you begin to long for closeness to Allah more than anything else. A purified heart doesn't mean a perfect person. It means someone whose love for Allah outweighs their love for the world. Someone who struggles, repents, and returns. Someone who begins to see others with mercy instead of judgment, and who sees their own flaws before pointing out the flaws of others. This is why Allah isolates His chosen ones, not to punish them, but to clean what the world has stained, to polish what has been dulled by distraction, and to return you to Him with a heart that's lighter, softer, and ready to carry the responsibility of His love and guidance. When the heart is pure, everything else follows. Your eyes look at the world differently, your tongue speaks with more care, and your soul finally feels at peace. There comes a point in every believer's journey where Allah gently, or sometimes forcefully, removes every support they used to lean on. Friends become distant, family doesn't understand, plans fall apart, and doors that once opened easily are suddenly closed. It's in this moment of stillness and solitude that you realize what Allah has been trying to teach you all along, that true strength, true peace, and true success can only come when you rely on Him completely. Relying solely on Allah, or Tawakkul, is not just a concept we speak about. It's a reality we are trained to live through experience, and that training often begins in isolation. When there's no one else to turn to, no help available, and no solution in sight, your heart slowly begins to let go of worldly attachments. You stop expecting help from creation and start expecting everything from the Creator. It's in those quiet, desperate moments that you finally understand the meaning of Hasbi Allah, Hu la ilaha illa huwa. Allah is sufficient for me. There is no deity except Him. This is not just a dua to be memorized. It's a mindset, a transformation, a surrender. You begin to walk through life not with fear of what people can do to you or what you might lose, but with full trust that whatever Allah decrees is best, even when you don't understand it. Tawakkul doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. It means doing your part with effort and excellence, and then releasing the outcome to Allah with full confidence that His plan is better than yours. And sometimes, to truly reach this level of trust, Allah has to take away the things we put too much hope in, so that our hope returns to Him. When you're isolated and everything feels uncertain, you have two choices: panic or trust. And when you choose to trust Allah, you start to experience a calm that doesn't make sense to the world. People may wonder how you're smiling, how you're still standing, how you haven't broken down completely. And the answer is simple. You've handed your affairs to the one who never fails. Allah isolates you not to leave you alone, but to show you that He is enough, that His mercy is near, that His help is certain, and that you were never truly alone, not for a single moment. Through this process, you come out stronger, wiser, and more connected to Him than ever before. That is the gift of relying solely on Allah. In life, not everyone who walks with you is meant to stay with you. Sometimes Allah begins to remove certain people from your life, not because they're entirely bad, but because they're not meant for the next stage of your journey. When you start to grow spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, not everyone around you will grow with you, and Allah, in His wisdom, begins to filter your surroundings. This filtering is a mercy, though it may feel like heartbreak. You might wonder why someone you cared about suddenly became distant, or why a relationship you valued no longer brings peace. But Allah sees what you don't. He sees the intentions, the envy, the distractions, and the silent harm. He knows who weakens your faith, who drains your energy, and who brings more harm than benefit. So before you step into a new level of responsibility or closeness with Him, He clears the path. When Allah removes someone from your life, it's never random. Sometimes it's to protect your heart, sometimes it's to protect your faith, and sometimes it's because their presence would block a blessing that's coming your way. You may be holding on to certain people or places, but Allah knows that their time in your life has expired. So He detaches them gently or suddenly to make space for something better, something purer, something more aligned with your purpose. This process might leave you feeling alone, but it's not loneliness, it's refinement. Allah is teaching you that your circle matters, that the people you surround yourself with can either pull you toward Him or pull you away. So He does the hard work for you. He filters the crowd. He removes the ones who don't truly support your growth. And He brings new people into your life who uplift you, remind you of Him, and bring peace to your soul. This isn't something to resist. It's something to trust. Because with every filtered connection, Allah is saying, you don't need them, you need me, and I will send you who is best for you at the right time. And when He does, those new connections will feel easy, sincere, and blessed. So don't mourn the losses too long. Look ahead. Allah is simply organizing your life to match the elevation of your soul. When Allah isolates you, one of the most powerful things that begins to change is your relationship with the Qur'an and Salah. In the noise of everyday life, it's easy to treat prayer as a routine and the Qur'an as a book we recite without reflection. But when you're pulled away from distractions, when people fade and silence surrounds you, you begin to hear something deeper, the voice of your soul yearning for its creator. In that space of solitude, your heart becomes more sensitive. You start to feel the verses of the Qur'an in a way you never did before. What once felt like simple recitation becomes a conversation. You open the Qur'an and suddenly, the words speak directly to what you're going through. The pain you couldn't put into words, the confusion you couldn't explain to anyone, Allah addresses it in the most personal and profound way. And you realize, this is not just a book, this is guidance. This is healing, this is your lifeline. The same happens with Salah. When you're surrounded by people, prayer can become a formality. But when you're isolated and broken, it transforms. You fall into sujood not because it's time to pray, but because it's the only place that feels safe. You raise your hands in dua because you truly have no one else to turn to. Your tears fall, your voice trembles, and for the first time in a long time, you're not rushing through the prayer, you're living in it. Every movement has meaning, every word feels real, and every moment spent with Allah feels like oxygen to a starving soul. This connection doesn't come from comfort, it comes from need. When Allah removes the world from around you, He's inviting you to find comfort in Him alone. He's telling you that while people may forget you, while life may push you aside, He never will. He's drawing you near, saying, talk to me, turn to me, trust me. Over time, you begin to crave the prayer. You begin to look forward to those quiet moments before dawn when the world is asleep, but your heart is awake with Allah. The Qur'an becomes a companion that never lets you down, and in this isolation, you build a bond with your Creator that no one can shake. This is one of the greatest blessings of being alone for the sake of Allah. Your connection to Him deepens not in the crowd, but in the quiet. And when the world welcomes you back, you walk differently, not because your circumstances have changed, but because your heart now carries the light of a soul that found its peace with Allah. Sometimes, the isolation you experience feels like a breaking point. It feels like everything you knew about yourself and your life is falling apart. The pain can be overwhelming, the loneliness crushing, and you may wonder if you will ever be the same again. But this breaking is not the end. It is the beginning of a beautiful process that Allah is orchestrating to rebuild you stronger and purer than before. Allah knows that the old version of you, the one attached to worldly desires, pride, or unhealthy relationships, cannot carry the weight of the future He has planned for you. So He allows things to break, to shatter your illusions, your false securities, and sometimes even your hopes, so that He can rebuild your heart, mind, and soul on a foundation that is firm and unshakable. This breaking is not random or cruel. It's a divine surgery. It's the spiritual equivalent of a blacksmith heating metal until it softens and becomes malleable, so it can be shaped into a powerful sword. When you feel broken, know that your soul is being softened, humbled, and prepared to be molded into something greater. In this process, you learn patience, resilience, and surrender. You learn that strength is not about holding everything together by your own power, but about trusting Allah to put the pieces back in the right place. You learn to let go of who you thought you were and embrace who Allah wants you to become. Sometimes being broken is what frees you from the chains of your past. It breaks your dependency on people, habits, or things that were limiting your growth. It breaks your ego, your arrogance, and your resistance to change. And from those broken pieces, Allah creates a new you, one who is more compassionate, more sincere, and more devoted. So if you are in a season of breaking, don't despair. Your breaking is not a punishment. It's a preparation, a cleansing, a necessary step toward a rebirth. Trust in Allah's wisdom, hold on to your faith, and know that He will rebuild you, piece by piece, heart by heart, into the best version of yourself. And when He does, you will emerge not only stronger, but shining with a light that can never be dimmed. When Allah isolates His chosen ones, it often comes with tests, quiet, personal trials that weigh heavily on the heart. These moments of solitude are not just random difficulties, they are a way for Allah to test the sincerity of your faith, because sincerity, or ikhlas, is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Without it, actions become hollow and worship becomes a show. In the presence of many, it's easy to perform acts of devotion for the sake of praise or acceptance. But when you are alone, stripped of all attention and recognition, your faith is revealed in its purest form. Do you pray when no one is watching? Do you remember Allah when the world forgets you? Do you keep your heart attached to Him even when it's hard? These trials separate the sincere from the pretenders. They show whether your love for Allah is based on comfort and reward, or if it is rooted deep within your soul, pure, unwavering, and free from any desire for worldly gain. Sometimes you may feel tempted to give up, to stop struggling, to lose hope. But it's in those moments that your sincerity is being measured. Allah knows what's hidden inside your heart, your true intentions, your secret fears, and your quiet hopes. And through these tests, He gives you the chance to purify those intentions, to strip away any hidden motives, and to bring you closer to Him. Each hardship, each moment of loneliness, is an opportunity to renew your commitment, to turn back to Allah with a heart that is honest and open. Remember, sincerity is not something you suddenly achieve. It is a continuous effort, and sometimes the greatest proof of your sincerity is simply that you don't give up, even when the world has turned its back on you, even when your prayers seem unanswered, even when your soul feels weary. So embrace these tests, knowing that they are a sign of Allah's attention and love. Your sincerity is being polished like a precious gem, becoming clearer and brighter with every trial. And when you emerge from this season, your faith will be stronger, your connection to Allah deeper, and your worship more meaningful, because it will be rooted in pure sincerity, tested and proven by the one who knows your heart best. When Allah isolates you, it may feel like you're surrounded by darkness, loneliness, confusion, and hardship. But this darkness is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a transformation that prepares you to become a source of light for others. Allah takes you through the shadows so that you can learn how to shine, how to guide, and how to bring hope to those who are lost. Being isolated teaches you to find light within yourself, to rely on Allah's guidance when everything around you feels uncertain. You start to carry a light that doesn't depend on people's approval or the comfort of company. This light comes from deep within your purified heart and sincere faith. It is a light that glows quietly but steadily, even in the darkest moments. Once you've experienced the trials of isolation and emerged with patience, strength, and closeness to Allah, you gain wisdom that cannot be learned any other way. You understand the struggles of others because you have walked through your own. You feel compassion for those who are broken, lost, or overwhelmed, and with that compassion, you become a beacon of hope. Allah prepares you to be a guide, not by surrounding you with crowds, but by giving you a heart full of light that attracts others naturally. People will come to you for comfort, advice, and inspiration, not because you seek their attention, but because your light cannot be hidden. Your patience, your kindness, and your steadfastness in faith become a source of healing for those around you. This role of being a source of light is a great responsibility, and it requires a heart that has been tested and purified. Allah's isolation was the necessary training ground to build that heart. So, when you feel alone and in darkness, remember that Allah is shaping you into a lighthouse, a shining example for others to find their way through their own storms. In time, your light will spread beyond what you can imagine. What once felt like a lonely struggle will become the foundation for inspiring many. You will learn that your isolation was never empty or wasted. It was the gift of preparation, so you can illuminate the path for others who are still searching for their own light. In every moment of isolation and hardship, there lies a divine wisdom far greater than what we can see. Allah, in His infinite mercy, chooses to set apart the chosen ones, not to punish or abandon them, but to elevate, protect, purify, and prepare them for a higher purpose. Through detachment, testing, and solitude, He strengthens the heart, deepens reliance on Him alone, and filters what surrounds us so we can grow closer to His light. What may feel like loneliness is actually a sacred journey of transformation, breaking down the old self to rebuild a stronger, purer soul. And at the end of this process, those who endure emerge as beacons of hope and guidance, carrying a light forged through trials that can illuminate the darkness for others. So, trust in Allah's plan, embrace the process with patience, and know that every season of isolation is a step closer to the greatness He has destined for you.